Hello, you're watching Ellie from Elementary Paper Crafting. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the UK. Last weekend I held a craft class and my ladies made the lovely chocolate box that I showed on my Facebook page last week. And since I showed this, I've had a lot of requests to actually make a video. So that's what I'm bringing you today. So it's a pretty box like so, and then when you take the lid off, it explodes and reveals lots of lovely chocolate sticks to treat somebody special to. So let me just show you the chocolates that I use. They're called Merci, and I've bought these from B&M Bargains. There are also some exactly the same size made by Godiva. They come in a box of 16, I believe. These are 20, and you need 15 to fill the box that we're making today. Okay, so let's get started. We're beginning by taking the Eden's Garden stamp set, which is a new one to Stampin' Up in our new catalogue, and to decorate the inside of my chocolate box, I'm stamping. So I'm taking Soft Succulent, which is one of the new in colours, and the largest image stamp from the stamp set. Now I'm making sure that my main stamping is in the areas which will be seen mostly, because a lot of the central area is covered up by the actual chocolate sticks themselves and the mechanism that holds them in. So I'm deliberately choosing just to do these images near the four corners, but not right at the top, because the actual corners of this box will be cut off at a later point. So there's no need to stamp in that area. So I started with that main design, and now I'm taking the little berries and I'm taking the real red stamping pad and just adding towards the centre the berries over the top of the Soft Succulent. So I'm choosing to stamp a couple on each image. Now this is really kind of freestyle stamping. You just go where you think it's required. Excuse me. So then I'm bringing in the tidings and trimmings, and there's a greeting for Noel, which I think is such a gorgeous font. And I'm choosing again the central panel there, and I'm just stamping 4 times underneath. Now I didn't hold that stamp properly, so I'm just going back and stamping over it. And the beauty of these photopolymer stamps is that you can see through them, so you can normally get a good reprint. Now I'm bringing in some foliage, and this is the larger of the 2 foliage sprigs, and just stamping either side just to fill out that area. So repeating that all the way round. I'm sticking to the Soft Succulent here. And now I'm bringing in the other sprig, which is a slightly smaller size. And again, just filling in the gaps. You don't have to be too precise, as long as you fill the area. Once the box is all folded up, a lot of the design will be covered, but don't worry about it. Now I'm bringing in Evening Evergreen, which is another of the in colours. This is a really beautiful, very dark green. And this looks nice when you're using smaller foliage. And again, I'm just filling in little gaps here and there. So that's most of the area that I want stamped. Now I'm just bringing in the very much smaller sprig, and again looking for a few gaps and just putting it nearer the centre there. They're not uniform, but that's absolutely fine. This kind of stamping doesn't need to be uniform. And you'll see once the box is opened, it really doesn't matter where you stamped. And now I'm bringing in some sort of speckles, dottage as we call it in the trade, and this just really brings the whole design together somehow. Nobody can really explain why this helps, but it really, really does. And I think it makes it look more festive as well. So that's the stamping done. Now, on the reverse of the cardstock, I'm going to do the scoring. So I place it into my trimmer, and I'm going to score at 10 centimetres, and I'm going to do that on all four sides. So you just score down, and then you turn your cardstock 90 degrees and repeat. So what you're doing in effect is dividing this piece of cardstock into 9 equal areas, each of which measure 10 by 10 centimetres. I've chosen to use centimetres today because it fits the size of the card better. It's much easier to score into 3 lots of 10 centimetres. So that's all the scoring done. Now you need to take a ruler and a scoring tool and find the intersection there on each corner. Pop the ball of the tool down and butt your ruler up against it, and then line it up with the corner and just score firmly between the 2 dots. And just repeat this all the way around. And this forms the corner where you can actually fold up the box. Excuse me. So you can see the scoring there. So now I'm going to bring in my trimmer and I'm going to cut the corners off. So I just look at the intersection on the opposite side, so there and there, and I'm going to cut off between those 2 lines. So just cut the corner off. And again, I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. So you've cut away half of the line that you've actually scored. And by the way, don't try to do this before you score, because the first score line won't work out because you won't have a corner to score up to. So that's sorted out. And there's your inside and the outside. So I'm going to decorate the outside in between those score lines with this beautiful paper, which is called Ever Eden, and it's part of the Eden's Garden suite, goes with the stamp set. And I'm alternating the colours there, so I've got 2 different designs, and I'm simply adhering each piece into the area that's marked out and leaving a little half a centimetre gap all the way around. Just make sure when you're using a paper like this that's going to go on a box that you really make sure it's stuck down in all the corners and along all the edges, because when a box has got to fold back and forward several times, you want to make sure everything's stuck down perfectly. And people will play with this box all the time. Whoever you give it to will play with it, and they will show it to people and they will play with it. It really, really is a real crowd pleaser, this box. So be prepared. If you do gift one, be prepared to accept orders, because lots of people just think they're wonderful, and they are. And by the way, this isn't my original idea. I found this several years ago on YouTube, and although the video was clear, there was no speaking, it was purely visual. And if you're not quick enough to look at the measurements and watch carefully, there might be things you miss. And I have slightly changed measurements here and there to make it, well, I thought to make it easier. So then just turn it over and score all your, burnish all your score lines. Excuse me. And make sure that you do go on all the score lines and that you don't accidentally score below or above them, because then you'll spoil the box and the paper. So get them all really crisply burnished. Now push in where you've scored gently. If you fold one corner and then put your finger right up in the corner there to define the line, and just tease it over until it falls right, and get your folding. Now it's important to look at the corners of the box. So I made sure that my finger at the bottom there was holding the two sides together to make sure that the right angle was very, very sharp. So we repeat that again, bend it down, and then look at the corner there, make sure it's down. And when you put it down like that, you can feel the side with one finger and make sure it's all buttered up beautifully. And then I always turn it and re-burnish on the other side. So I can't stress that you must burnish these really, really well, and both ways. I absolutely love the real red with the soft succulent for these Christmas projects. They just go together so well. So that's all four corners done, and that's really the exploding part done. It's quite simple. It will naturally drop down when the weight of the chocolates is inside. It will then fall flat. So that's the basic box finished. So the next thing is to prepare the holders for the chocolate sticks themselves. So I've taken some ribbon, and I've got 5 lengths of ribbon, and they are the length of my grid paper there, which is roughly 16 inches. And then you need a piece that is 7 by 7 centimetres to go in the middle. And I've just clipped off the edges with a punch that I have. Glue this down very firmly in the middle, and the next thing we're going to do is take the 4 pieces, which are 9.5 centimetres by 8.5 centimetres, and again I've clipped the top corners of those with a punch and they're going there like so. Now you can see why I was more particular to stamp in those areas each side of those mounts, so that I'm really not over decorating anything that's going to be covered up. You need to place these about half a centimetre from the top edge, and again make sure you put plenty of glue down, but not so much that it squeezes out of the sides. And just to repeat that measurement, they're 9.5 by 8.5, and the longer 9.5 measurement is the width. I've matched the cardstock to the real red of the berries on this occasion. And then I cut 4 pieces of Evening Evergreen, and they measure 9.5 by 4.5. I'm using the triple corner punch here to cut out that lovely little decorative sort of 3-leaf design, and then I'm going over again and using the corner rounder in the same corners and repeating that 4 times. So these pieces go along the bottom, and you'll see as I glue this up, make sure that you do get all the corners glued, and then you pop that down and you put that about half a centimetre above the crease you've made towards the centre there. So the contrast between the green and the red
is really lovely. And those little 3-leaf cutouts that you've made really do add something when you see the red popping through. I think you'll agree that that does look really pretty. So that's the 4 done. And the next thing is you need a piece of card to anchor that ribbon in the centre. And now what I do is that piece of card measures 5 by 5 centimetres. And I put it right in the middle there, and I get the cross of the centre so that I know where it's going to be centred. So if I move that down, my ribbon, across the centre line and pop that up, I know exactly where I'm going to put it. I'm using that piece of card to measure where I'm putting the glue on my ribbon, and then bringing that up, making sure it's in the centre, and make sure that's stuck really firmly down. So I'll turn it over, pick the ribbon up, not the card, and just go over it really firmly with my bone folder and make sure that it's stuck right the way to the end. And now pop this right in the centre. Now make sure this has got plenty of glue on it, because this is where you're going to hold the chocolate sticks, and you don't want, when you pull the chocolate up, you don't want to pull the cardstock up when you undo the ribbon. So do take some time to make sure that this is very firmly stuck down. And I've put a weight on it there, and I'm just going to move that out of the way, keep the weight on it. Now I've got 4 pieces of cardstock that are 11.1 centimetres by 6, and I'm scoring at 5 centimetres and 6.1. That's 5 centimetres and 6.1. So you've got to gusset in the middle of 1.1 centimetres, which is the depth of the chocolate stick. So once I've scored all 4, I've chosen again to use the corner rounder on the top ends. That's the part you're going to see when you open the box that holds the chocolate. And when you're using this punch, do make sure that you push your cardstock in right in so it fits snugly, and push at the centre of the punch and not the edge, which you think is where you should. So I'm just taking these and I'm going to stamp just that main design in the soft succulent again, and I'm just doing it towards the top end where I've rounded the corner. You don't need to be too precise with this because it will go off the edges, so just stamp down, and just like I did before, I'm just going to use the soft succulent for this main stamp on them, and then I'm going to take the berry stamp and stamp the berries in the centre just as I did before on the main body of the box. If you make this box, incidentally, it'd be lovely to see what you make. If you use different colours, that's always really nice to see. So in with the berries, and that finishes off the decoration. So now they're all done. Now I burnish all my score lines on all 4. And there's a smudge on the back of that one, but don't worry because that's going to be hidden. Again, when you're making boxes or anything that's interactive, you have to make sure that you really score everything really well and make sure it's all squared up properly. So there's my 4 little front holders. Now, incidentally, you can always use DSP to decorate if you prefer that to stamping. Now to stick the ribbon on, again, I've popped it across the middle of my paper, my cardstock on, and make sure the glue goes on the ribbon. And then move the cardstock up, and you want to put the card about 1 centimetre above that ribbon. Again, make sure it's firmly adhered right to the edges, and then you repeat that on all 4 of these. That's it. So just again, make sure it's really well stuck. Now we're going to pop those in place, and it's going to sit like that. So the part that's not decorated is going to be glued down. So I fold it in half there, and I make sure that I fold away everything that doesn't have to have glue on, so I can't accidentally glue the wrong piece. And then make sure the ribbon is glued along there. And then you place this about 1/2 centimetre above the bottom of the evening evergreen cardstock there, and make sure that you press down really firmly with your bone folder until they're all stuck down in place. And I turn it upside down just to make sure that I've stuck everything. So this is for the lid, and this piece measures 21 by 21 centimetres, and I've just stamped very simply in the centre, just on the edges there, because we're going to decorate it with a big bow, so you won't see the centre. Now I'm scoring at 5.3 centimetres all the way round. That's 5.3 centimetres. So then you need to fold and burnish all your score lines, just as we always do. Burnish and score, really, really well. And then I'm always working on the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm going to, sorry, I jumped the gun there. I'm going to decorate the sides with the matching designer series paper that I used on the box itself. So again, I'm using opposite sides with the two different designs, and what I've done is I've got the striped piece, I've alternated it so the stripes go across here, whereas they went down on the body of the card. So now here I come to do the tabs. So always working on the bottom right hand corner, I cut up just to the left of that score line. Again, bottom right hand corner, as I turn it round 90 degrees each way each time, cutting just to the left of that score line. And then I'm going to cut tabs. So I fold away a little bit to make it easier to hold. Take off that right hand edge. Again, turn, go back, cut off the next one. And then I go back and cut all the other side off. So I've got little wedges cut out of all my tabs. Now make sure you put plenty of glue on here. And what I do is I squeeze some out, and then I use the lid just to spread it. So I'm not squeezing all the time, but you do need plenty of glue. And then bring this up and make sure that that edge there is really squared, and make sure that you've cut it, you stick it down really well, and I anchor it with some pegs, and then I will let that dry. So I leave it for about 5 minutes to dry well. Bring the box back in. Now you're going to fit the lid to the box, but it's too difficult to get it on the top because it will spring open. So fit the lid around the bottom of the box. This is the secret to fitting a lid that won't be too tight and won't be too loose. So put some glue on that tab before you tuck anything under. So the glue's on there. Now put the glue on this one, and then spread it all out. Now tuck that piece in, and then you can bring the whole thing up together. Now squeeze the corners so that the lid fits nice and tight enough, but not so tight that it won't come off. Now when you do that, go inside and press down firmly, and we can't peg this to dry, so when it's stuck, when it's pressed down firmly, put it to one side and let it dry. Now I've cut these shapes out on my Cameo machine, but you can just cut these out freehand. It's not really difficult, and they don't have to be really precise, and those little tabs show you where to stick them. So you simply glue. Sorry, I'm going to stamp them first just to give them a little bit of decoration. And I'm just using one of the sprigs and the soft succulent. And you don't see the all of this bow. You just see the sort of top middle section. So that's all I stamp. So again, it's just using the Noel stamp on the end of the little tab there. And then I put glue on that tab, meet that in the middle. And I'm only used copier paper for this. And you do need to make sure this is stuck quite firmly down. And again, you just put the glue on the other side. And then I get one of my pegs in just to hold that down. And then I go and do all the others. So once they're all glued together, you can take all your pegs off and start to build up the bow. So you take I started with the largest one there, and I just go an opposite way and glue that one down. And then I take the next one and I go diagonally across, like so, glue that one down, and then the fourth one diagonally. And you really have to press that down for ages. So now, where I pinched it together, there's a tiny little bit overlapping there, and that I knew that was going to happen, but that was to make sure that the box fitted nice and tightly, and there's a tiny little bit there too. So just whip that off. Now you know that that lid will fit. So I'm bringing in my chocolates and pop the middle ones in and tie up the ribbon into a bow. I find the bunny ears method is the best method to use for tying a bow quickly. You get the tails full the same way with this method. And let's do yourself a nice little bow. And then you put the other 12 sticks into each holder there and tie all the bows again. This ribbon is 1/2 inch wide. You might find it works easier with thinner ribbon. So once you've done all the ribbons, your box is now finished, and don't you think it looks beautiful? Absolutely love this box. It's so impressive. The gold of the wrapper also, I think, really gives it justice. And then pop your lid on, which fits perfectly because we fitted it. Pop your ribbon on top. Incidentally, you can recreate that paper ribbon by using proper ribbon, just by using the same principle, but obviously it's ribbon, not paper. And you might need to use double-sided tape to stick it together rather than glue. And make sure you have to really wait quite a long time for this to stick down and dry because it keeps popping up. So this is a bit tedious. I did sit with my finger on top for some time, but I've speeded this up obviously. And then I found this red button in my stash that absolutely, you know, matched perfectly to finish this one off. So there's my box, and I've alternated the designer series paper there, and then open it up and you get that beautiful exploding effect. I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. So pop that on. You can put the lid on the other way so you've got the matching DSP, and I think it looks nice that the stripes go one way and the other. So if there's any items that you'd like to order from the Stampin' Up catalogues, you'll see a link to my online shop in the description box below, and also links to the digital copies of the catalogues that are available to order from at the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.